All Access. An inside look at what it takes to operate Iowa's largest entertainment and convention facilities. This is Iowa Events Center All Access. From Iowa Everywhere.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of All Access here on the Iowa Everywhere Podcast Network. We're presented by the Iowa Event Center. Matt Van Winkle and Adam Flack, Director of Marketing, joins us for another episode of All Access. Adam, we made it through winter. We're into spring. We're in April. I know you guys have a busy month of events, of entertainment coming to the Iowa Event Center. We'll get into some of that towards the end of the show. But hey, I thought we'd get into a show announcement that you guys made last week. You want to tell us who's coming to Wells Fargo Arena?
Yeah, last week we announced that the Jonas Brothers are coming. It's many years in the making. I've heard that name a lot over the past 20 years and almost get them or have it booked and it doesn't work out or whatever. So happy to welcome the Jonas Brothers on October 5th. Tickets are on sale now and they're available. So it's kind of a unique show. You know, obviously you've got the Jonas Brothers stuff that they've done on their own, but then you've got their solo careers in there and songs from DNCE. So I think you'll see kind of a variety and a mix of shows or of numbers when they're here. Yeah,
this was Jonas Brothers. It's cool that they're all coming back together, and like you said, they're all going to kind of do their own kind of, as they've built these like subgroups, or they've done their solo tours and stuff. Like you and I were talking about, like, in the 2010s, 10-ish years ago, these guys were extremely hot, and they're still really relevant today. And it's cool that they're actually going to be all together. I feel like when young musicians kind of come up, they especially these like boy bands, if you will, like One Direction, for example, like they all start together and then they like to go off and do their own thing and kind of see the world, without their. I guess in these cases, they're real brothers, but it is kind of cool to see them kind of like full circle come back together and kind of celebrate like the 20 years that they've been in music, I guess.
Yeah. And I can't imagine it's been 20 years already. That's kind of crazy, but yeah, you see that a lot with groups that they'll take some breaks and do some solo stuff and try it and come back together. And we're just fortunate that they are, back together for another tour and playing some baseball stadiums as well as some arenas. So it should be a big tour for them.
So Nick, Kevin, and Joe are all coming back, and it'll be cool. Have they played Wells Fargo Arena before?
No, this will be the first time. So It's right after our 20th anniversary and getting into the fall, right before hockey season starts, and should kick off, be a good show to kick off the fall.
So 20 years of Jonas Brothers, 20 years of the arena.
That's right.
They're celebrating.
That's why they're coming. That's our 20th anniversary show right there.
That's awesome. So October 5th, Wells Fargo Arena. And those tickets are on sale right now, right, Adam?
They are. Yep. Went on sale on Friday. So you can get them. Tickets available on all price levels at this point. So highvtix.com.
Nice. Well, it's crazy to think that we're just a month away from having UFC for the first time. We're having the Jonas Brothers for the first time in October. And the UFC is going to be making their first stop in Des Moines in May. It's wild that it's just a month away. I know you guys are probably in your full preparation, getting ready for the big event.
Yeah, full preparation mode for UFC. I was looking at some statistics over the ticket sales, and we've got tickets sold in 41 different states. So when you talk about UFC being a international brand and bringing economic impact to Des Moines, that's your proof right there. So right when we go on sale, we've got tickets from 41 states. We'll see how that plays out over the next month. But hotel rooms should be ready. And with WWE on Friday night as well, could be a great weekend for events happening down here.
Yeah, I just took a peek at the ticket availability, and it looks like you guys have really been selling a lot of tickets to the event. Like you said, 41 states have already purchased. That means a lot of hotels that are being sold to, a lot of revenue that's going to be coming through this state for that. And as we've mentioned, you've got WWE the night before. A lot of people probably taking in both events, but also saw too, Adam, that the state of Iowa approved a $50,000 sports tourism grant that's going to be going towards promotion of this event. And I'm sure you guys are going to need all of that because this is a big event that's going to be coming through our state. And it's pretty cool that you guys are going to be able to use those funds to promote this as well.
Yeah, that's a grant that we're fortunate that the state of Iowa has available to any organization that wants to apply for it.
Yeah.
Polk County, who owns our facility, is actually who applied for the grant on our behalf. And so basically it's a matching funds grant. So, whatever our budget is, we were awarded 50,000. That means that, they'll match 50% of our funds up to 50. So we would spend 100 and get 50 of that back in that grant. Yeah, heard a lot of people wonder why or how, and it's to promote tourism. It is a sports tourism grant, and nothing says tourism like 41 different states buying tickets to an event, a first time event. So that advertising will happen both in Des Moines, a lot of online advertising, and then we're looking at some billboards and different things in some other markets, maybe as people are driving in. So, really working the surrounding states around Iowa, really trying to drive that traffic in to, again, increase our economic impact of the event.
Yeah, well, you think about it too, in May, that's going to be a great time for visitors who are coming to our state, maybe for the first time to see it. So I'm sure a lot of other entities are going to be wanting to work with you guys on that tourism, as you mentioned, as we welcome the UFC, a lot of UFC fight fans from around the Midwest, around the country, into Des Moines. So it's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to kind of getting into the meat of who's fighting and maybe learn a little bit more about what these fights, the implications of these. But God, it really is going to be cool to have the Octagon at Wells Fargo Arena. And I know that's going to be, like we've mentioned, WWE to UFC. That's going to be a lot of crew that's going to be working to flip that too, to stage that.
Yeah. So, and they're in town for the week, right?
Yeah.
So they don't just fly in the day of and come fight. Those fighters will be in early in the week, really getting through their pre-fight routine, making sure that they're eating right and cutting weight and doing what they need to do throughout that week. So that's more of an extended stay, with all the fighters coming in and then the wrestlers coming in for Friday night. The iCubs are in town that weekend. Maybe we see an uptick of people going on to an iCubs game, and the farmers market opens that weekend. So it's a huge weekend already for Des Moines. We've got a big volleyball tournament across the street in the convention center. So a lot going on down around the Iowa Event Center that first weekend in May, but also throughout downtown.
Yeah. And just curious too, so when events come to town, I'm thinking, this has nothing to do with UFC, but like Disney on Ice, how they'll have stands or things that they're selling throughout the arena. Are you going to see that for both nights? Like when they're there for WWE on Friday, are they going to be promoting stuff for UFC too? Like with this company being under the same umbrella, is that going to be a lot of the same stuff that you're going to be seeing throughout the arenas too that weekend?
Yeah, that's a great question. Will they sell UFC merchandise at WWE and WWE merchandise at UFC? I don't know the answer to that, to be honest. We haven't
come
talked
down
about
and
that
see it for yourself
in depth yet. Part of me wonders if they won't, because they won't want to compete with each other for merchandise. The merchandise is very important to both organizations. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're both owned by TKO, but still operating as different business units within there. So my guess is that won't happen. They did do a ticket package, a bundle with UFC tickets and WWE, and those packages that we made available sold out. So
nice.
Yeah, it's a good question on the merchandise, but you might just have to buy a ticket to both.
Yeah. It still amazes me that it's the first time for UFC, just with the wrestling background in Iowa and how much we're into that sport, that it's the first time that we're having it here in Des Moines. And it's the first time in Des Moines, but has UFC ever been to Iowa and any other cities?
Yep, great question. UFC was in Cedar Rapids, I think in the year 2000. So it's been 25 years. Yeah. But I think UFC 26 or something like that is what it was called. Did happen in Cedar Rapids, because that's one of the things we were talking about. It's first time in Iowa. And then we quickly realized as we did our research that, second time in Iowa, first time in Des Moines.
Yeah, and it probably not, and it's definitely not the first time for Iowans to compete, because we know Jeremy Stevens, who's been in the UFC he's been in the UFC for a while. Probably he's been close to 20 years as well. Yeah, maybe in and out. So
he in and out. Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. I think he is coming back for this fight. I think he's doing some bare knuckle fighting as well. So yeah, coming back to UFC for the May 3rd event here in Des Moines.
So we've mentioned that the tickets are they're hard to come by now, but there still are upper level seats available. Some of those premier seats on the bottom. But for people that are really wanting to go to this, you're probably just encouraging to get them now, with the possibility maybe some might open up the week of the show.
Yeah, there's always that possibility as we look at. I know for a fact, there's some sight lines with some screens that they're bringing in for the upper levels that will knock some seats out. But once they get those screens set, we'll see if we can open up more tickets around them, and probably some restricted view type seats. So yeah, there might be some holds that open up down the road, but can't guarantee that. So if you really want to go, I'd get what's available right now.
And anything that we know, that is UFC going to bring in anybody, the day before, the week before, to do any sort of like meet and greet or anything like that? Do they do anything like that when they bring events in, or is it a sort of expo or something?
A lot of times when they've been in places that they have the arena for the whole week, they will do like the ceremonial weigh-ins and some of that stuff.
Right.
With WWE happening on Friday, they won't be down here at all on Friday.
Okay. Gotcha.
So if they're going to do anything throughout the week, it would be somewhere else. I don't know those exact plans yet, but I do know that we've got a couple things planned maybe for Tuesday and Thursday that you'll see some of their people around early in the week.
Awesome. Well, this isn't the last you'll hear about it on this show on Iowa Everywhere. We hopefully we'll have maybe one of the UFC fighters that will come on All Access or one of our other podcasts that we can talk about it, and having it being in Des Moines for the first time ever. It's a pretty cool thing to have. Cool. All right. So UFC coming once again. That's May 3rd, correct?
May 3rd. Yep.
Saturday, May 3rd. All right. We're looking forward to that. All right. Some other news that came out a couple weeks back. We saw that state basketball, you guys were wrapping up another great state tournament at Wells Fargo Arena. Saw news that the state tournament is going to be heading up to Ames at Hilton Coliseum starting in 2027, Adam.
Yeah. So what a blow, for Des Moines and not hosting boys basketball after next year. So we have one more year on our contract. And then after that, they have elected to go up to Iowa State and play at Hilton Coliseum, which is a great place for them. Right. So it's a great opportunity for those student athletes to play on that court that they're seeing on ESPN during the season and seeing all their favorite players play on. So from that standpoint, that makes a lot of sense. With Sci-Town opening up, the deal that Iowa State cut with them was probably pretty attractive, from a rental standpoint or free parking and some of those factors that are there. So it makes sense. We understand it. We're not happy about it. Obviously hosting that thing in Des Moines since 1963, we never took it for granted. It's a great opportunity for us to have energy in the building, and you're seeing people from all corners of the state that might not get down here for something else or might not know what you have coming up. And so it was a great opportunity for us to promote our other shows and other things that are happening throughout Des Moines to that audience, as they were a captive audience inside the arena. But again, it was a decision that they made. It wasn't like it was a bid opportunity. It was just, this is the opportunity that we want to take and we're going to do it. So, we wish them well. We'll still have state wrestling. And
girls,
and we're working on some, what's that?
Girls basketball.
Yep. So, it just takes that last week of state tournaments off, and, we'll try to fill it with other events or give our teams back that week, and they won't be on the road for 3 weeks in a row. They can get a couple home games in.
I mean, you guys had done such a great job, and I know the Iowa High School Athletic Association echoed that too, just how great of partners you guys have been with that. And as sad as it is to see it go, there's like you guys, we've said before, you guys hang the jerseys up there. You guys have been do it all out for the fans here of this in the state of Iowa, for all these small schools. And it is a bummer that they're going to be heading up north to Ames and won't be coming through Des Moines. But like you said, state wrestling, girls basketball, and so many great partners that you guys have in the Wolves and the Wild and the Barnstormers, which we'll talk about too, that will maybe open up some space for them. So
yeah, no, thanks for mentioning the jerseys too. So who knows what'll happen after next year and how that display will change. But we did crown some 9 new champions over girls basketball and boys basketball, and I can't change that jersey display until we get the jersey from every school. So if you're affiliated with one of those state champion schools, make sure to get with your athletic director and basketball coach to get us that jersey. So we're doing all of our outreach and asking for them to send it in, but still missing a few.
Well, here's an idea. So you had 20 years of Wells Fargo Arena. Maybe it's the state champs from all 20 years. You put, maybe it's not a jersey. Maybe it's just a sign or something like that of all the past state champions from the past 20 years, something like that. I don't know. That's always one of the fun things to come in. I was up in at US Bank Stadium, actually, up in Minneapolis last year, and they actually have every helmet from every high school football team on the wall up there, which is kind of a cool deal too.
That's a really cool display. I've seen the same thing. So I can't imagine what it took to get all of those and hang them all, but a really cool piece. So you see that in some different arenas. I think Excel Energy Center has some high school hockey stuff up there in St. Paul.
Yeah.
So yeah, we appreciate all the long run that we had with it, and wish them well, and we'll do the best we can to make sure that girls state basketball and the boys wrestling tournament is as good as it can be. Awesome.
Cool. Well, as we mentioned, we're into April, and we went through them on the last show, but I thought we'd just kind of highlight the April shows. You guys have a really busy April. Indoor Football League with the Barnstormers kicks off April 5th. That's this weekend, right?
So they played last weekend. Okay. I believe they played in Green Bay maybe. And so home opener April 5th. Then you head right into Monster Jam and Mercy Me and Wild and Out. So the next few weeks are pretty packed here at Wells Fargo Arena, not including like the Tattoo Expo that's this weekend and the State Pool Players Association event that they have. So 120 pool tables all in EMC Expo Center right now, getting ready for that event this week.
Are we gonna see you down at the Tattoo Expo, Adam?
Probably not.
You don't have a tattoo? I don't have any
Nope.
either. So.
No.
But yeah, I saw that. That's cool. That's a cool event. I know you guys have brought that back in the past too. So they'll be over at the EMC Expo Center. My daughter just got her ears pierced at a tattoo parlor. So I'd never been in really to a tattoo parlor, but they did them up there in Ankeny, and it's not my, like, I wouldn't ever think to be around that, but they're so professional and they do such a good job, and I'm sure that's what they promote there is healthy, safe piercings and tattoos and stuff like that. So.
You can do, you can get a tattoo while you're down here. I've heard there's a guy that's going to come in and get quite a few different tattoos from all different artists that are here. So,
cool.
They bring people in. It's Central Iowa tattoo artists, and then they bring some in from other places as well. So it's a pretty cool event. We've hosted it a few years in a row now, and it keeps growing. So excited for it.
Nice. So busy April. And again, it kicks off this Saturday with the Barnstormers kicking off their season. And before we wrap, I totally forgot this at the beginning, but you guys launched a new website, the iowaeventcenter.com, right?
We did. Yeah. It was time for a refresh. We had our old site for about 10 years. And so it was much needed to kind of update the colors and change a couple features on there, and just makes it a little bit more flexible for us in terms of how we're promoting both to the live event space and then to the meeting planner route as well. So your website's your front door to your business, and making it easy to find information and get people to remember their clear bag or the digital tickets or, parking and stuff. So got to keep that updated and easy for people to find.
Cool. Nice little refresh for 20 years of the arena.
That's right.
Wells Fargo Arena, the Iowa Event Center. Cool. iowaeventcenter.com is the place. If you want to learn about any of these shows we talked about, see what's coming up in April. We got football, Monster Jam, Mercy Me, Wild and Out, Brooks and Dunn, and Shinedown all coming up in April. It's going to be busy, but we're ready for it.
Something for everybody. So get down here and take something in. And if you don't think you're going to like it, give it a try. You might be introduced to something new.
iowaeventcenter.com, and then any tickets available, HighVTix.com. For Adam Flack, I'm Matt Van Winkle. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of All Access presented by the Iowa Event Center here on the Iowa Everywhere Podcast Network.